Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that could literally save you from financial ruin: flood insurance. It's so important, but it's also one of the most misunderstood things out there. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's just start with a really crucial question, one that every single property owner needs to ask themselves. And be honest, do you think you're actually protected if the waters rise? Well, here's the shocking reality. For most people, the answer is a financially devastating no. It's one of the biggest and, frankly, most costly assumptions you can possibly make. $30,000. Get this, according to FEMA, that's the average flood insurance claim. And if you don't have the right policy, well, that entire cost comes straight out of your own pocket. This right here is probably the most important thing to understand. Your standard homeowner's insurance, the one that covers stuff like fire and theft, it specifically excludes flood damage. It's right there in the fine print. Flood insurance is a totally separate policy. It's a dedicated financial safety net for when water comes from the outside in. And if you're sitting there thinking, phew, I'm safe, I don't live near a river or on the coast, well, think again. Over 20%, that's 1 in 5, of all flood claims come from places considered low to moderate risk. The reality is, it can flood pretty much anywhere. So we've clearly established the problem. It's a big one. Now let's dive headfirst into the solution. What exactly is flood insurance? At its core, it's pretty simple. It's a specific type of policy designed to pay for the physical damage to your property and your belongings when that damage is caused by water from an external source. We're talking overflowing rivers, torrential rainfall, coastal storm surges, that kind of thing. So a typical flood policy is really broken down into two main parts. The first is what's called building coverage. That protects the actual structure of your house, the foundation, the walls, the electrical systems. The second part is contents coverage, and that's for all your personal stuff inside the building: your couch, your TV, your clothes, all of it. All right, now for the nitty-gritty. Because with any insurance, what's not covered is often just as important as what is. So here are the basic boundaries. Flood insurance is for damage from rising water on the ground, storm surges, even mud flows. What it does not cover is water damage that starts inside your home, like if a sewer drain backs up. It also won't cover your car, or if you own a business, any income you lose while you're shut down. Now, here's a really key detail you need to know. Basements. They're a whole different animal. Because they are so vulnerable to flooding, coverage for your personal stuff down there is usually very limited. But, and this is the good news, the really big-ticket mechanical systems, like your furnace or your water heater, those are typically covered. Okay, so you might be wondering, do I actually need this? And if the answer is yes, how in the world do I get it? Let's turn all this info into a clear, actionable plan. Honestly, the list of who should consider this is a lot longer than you might think. Of course, homeowners, especially if you're in a high-risk zone where your mortgage company will probably require it, but renters too. You need to protect your furniture and electronics, and business owners to cover their building and all their inventory. The bottom line is, if you live anywhere that can get heavy rain, you should be looking into it. So when you go to get coverage, you basically have two main paths. The first is the big one, the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP. It's a federal program and it offers standardized coverage limits. Your other option is to go to the private insurance market. Private companies can often provide higher coverage limits and sometimes more flexible policy terms. Getting a policy is actually a pretty straightforward three-step process. First, just contact an insurance agent. They'll walk you through everything. Second, they'll help you assess your property's specific risk. And third, you just compare the NFIP and private options to find the best fit for what you need. Okay, all of this can seem a little abstract, right? So let's look at some real-world scenarios where having this insurance meant the difference between a full recovery and a total disaster. So picture this. A family's home gets hammered by a hurricane storm surge. But because they had flood insurance, they had the money to fix their foundation, replace all the ruined furniture and appliances. It literally turned what could have been complete financial ruin into a manageable recovery process. Or how about this? A flash flood in the middle of a city, nowhere near a coast, just devastates a small retail business. Because the owner had flood insurance, they were able to repair the building, replace their lost inventory, and get back to business without taking on a mountain of debt. And this is a perfect example of that basement rule we talked about. So a homeowner's basement floods after a big storm. Now, while their old photo albums stored down there might not have been covered, the policy did pay to repair the furnace and replace the washing machine. I mean, those are huge expenses that would have been a massive financial hit otherwise. Okay, so let's just boil it all down. 4 key things to remember. 1, floods can and do happen anywhere. 2, your standard homeowners insurance will not help you. 3, flood insurance is a totally separate policy you need for protection. And 4, the only way to be truly prepared is to know your risk and get covered.
So we'll end on this final thought. It only takes a few inches of water, just a few inches, to cause tens of thousands of dollars in damage. So the real question you have to ask yourself is this: are you financially prepared to face the flood? Are you truly ready?